Hi everybody, welcome to Speak Up Monday here. Round of applause, why not? There we go. All right. So as you know, we're here every Monday. Today's episode number 394 with Brother Alex, or Kimono Alex, which I'll get into in a minute. So now for those of you here in Bali, right, so you know this is called Speak Up Monday, Destination Indonesia, and it's award-winning for entrepreneurism and social impact. And one of the things that we do here is that we give you, the person maybe looking from Australia or other parts of Europe or from the UK, where I'm from, an insight into who are the people on the ground who are actually doing something. This is both Indonesians and foreigners alike. And what underpins it, what brings it all together are two things. Unity and diversity, which is the motto of Indonesia, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, and people inspire people. So these two things are incredibly important and fundamental to every episode that we do. So before I get into the story about Alex, I should probably let you... No, I'm going to get into the story. So Alex... Go on, you can say hi. Go on, man, do it.
First up, I would just want to thank Brother Bonnick for this opportunity to speak to everybody tonight. He is one of the largest and greatest promoters of entrepreneurism in Indonesia and definitely on the island of Bali. So thank you, Brother Bonnick, for everything that you do. It's so important, especially in this part of the world, to really give people a chance and really give them a voice and give them that opportunity to contribute back to society. So thank you, Brother Bonnick, for giving me this opportunity to speak to your audience tonight.
Oh, welcome, brother. So now what Alex is doing here, and we're going to get into this in a minute, is that, what is a few? I mean, Bali Abundant Impact Ventures, an incredible company that we'll talk about what they're doing. Also, he created and started the first ecosystem transformation group, which is almost 500 strong, a mix of investors, government, stakeholders in pretty much all industries that make up our ecosystem, right? So what I really appreciate about you is that it's a really, for anyone here who administrates a group, it can be the most rewarding.
It's the worst job ever, okay? I want to go on the record and saying being the community manager of a chat group is the worst job ever. And my heart goes out to anybody who has the great misfortune of having to do it. My condolences to you and your families and anybody who knows you.
So it is very difficult, you know, and because you're dealing with the best and the worst of human conditioning, patterning, and so on. So we'll get into this a bit later on, but maybe just to get us started, you know, I'll give you a quick story. So about 1.5 years ago, we realized, just off camera before, I had a call, like a call in Bali means you get a WhatsApp message. It's not a call, it's a WhatsApp text message, right? And it was like, look, have this great guy in town, his name's Alex, comes from this investment background, management consulting from the US, a big shot. You know, he's a good guy, but can you help him out? Can you maybe connect him with a few people here in Bali? Now, this guy B, or Burkhart, that some of you would know, is a great guy, a wonderful human being. So
a fellow super connector.
Oh, a fellow super connector as well. So when I saw Alex, I remember it's like this. So anyone here have a LinkedIn profile picture? Imagine a LinkedIn profile picture of like a typical burnt out executive, high powered from the US. Like
working in the financial services industry for 20 years will make you a little tired, to say the least.
So his profile picture was this angry, aggressive guy wearing a suit and like a tie
with a shirt that's too tight and a tie that is choking your neck, right?
And then, so I meet up with this guy in the Como, right? And I meet this guy, right? Wearing a kimono, right? So I quickly called him Kimono Alex because apparently what happened, maybe he'll tell you the other story, but apparently what happened was that, yeah, you know, he started to wear a kimono, a bit like the commercial, like Remington, you guys are too young, but there's a Remington commercial, and the guy says, you know, it was so good that I bought the company, right? He's talking about his Remington shavers. So Alex kind of pretty much did the same, but with this kimono company. So anytime I saw this guy, he was wearing a kimono, different colors, not the same one, just so you know. But we would laugh because when I look at the LinkedIn profile picture that he still had up at that time and compared it to LinkedIn to who he was now after Bali had kind of settled him down after a few months, I was blown away.
I am so grateful here, and I'm sure everybody in the audience is grateful to be here too, to live on this beautiful island. And really, Bali is at the intersection of tourism, right? We get a lot of foreign people coming here, enjoying life, and transformation, right? It's at the intersection of tourism and transformation. And so what I've recognized is that the island attracts a certain type of person, right? It's no longer people who are looking for just an experience. We could go whitewater rafting anywhere. We could ride an ATV on any beach. We come to Bali to be transformed. That's what it's all about. And so, yeah, Bali had a transformational effect on me. I ditched the gray suits and patterned ties and tight shirts, and I wear kimonos. And I feel so relaxed, and I feel great, and I feel that it makes other people around me relaxed and great and easier to work with as well.
You know, you mentioned before about a book that had a really deep impact on you spiritually. Can you tell us what that book was and why it had that impact?
Yeah, so it's a beautiful book, and let me just say I did a double major in psychology and philosophy at school, but I found in that kind of study you read all the masters obviously, but I came across this book written by Amit Pagdar, and it was called Finding Awareness. And it was really all about there is no other moment than this moment that we're in right now, this present moment. And if you return to the present moment during times of stress or strain, you realize that this is all there ever is and all there ever will be. And it has this transformational calming effect. And it's been transformational for me as well.
Love that, man. Love that. And you know, so maybe people are kind of wondering, because they hear the Canadian accent, right? So maybe give us a bit of your background. So yeah, kind of where you, but actually the bit that's coming up is, because again, I know you, right? And I think you're a very unique person, and in a very good way.
In a positive way.
In a very positive way.
Not in a weird kimono wearing way.
The kimono, you had me off guard. Yeah. So, you know, like, what were the seeds of who Alex has become now, back then growing up? What were some of those, or one of those experiences that you look back now and you say, well, that was one of the things that showed me who I was to become? What would you say that would be?
I think that all periods of trauma, all periods of pain, all periods of suffering have transformational qualities and impact on all of us. And if you can learn to be grateful for the transformational experiences, good or bad, and realize that it is all part of life's journey. And if you can get comfortable with that, it is so rewarding and so healing and so, it's just a beautiful part of life. You know, there comes with anything in this world, good and bad, yin and yang. The Balinese have a similar concept as well. And without the bad, there can be no good. And without the good, there can be no bad. And I say to my kids, I say to them, you know, on a super great day, just relax, okay? It's a great day today, but it can always get a little worse. And even on the most difficult days, I tell them, guys, things are always going to get better. And so if you can remember that things tend to revert back to the mean, generally speaking, it will hold you well through good times and bad.
So now what I love about that story is that it's given us a great frame, but no detail, man. You get that? You talked around it. So give us one experience when you're growing up that may have led to that. Maybe it was a trauma, maybe it wasn't. That kind of sowed some of the seeds to who you are right now.
I can actually tell you the story about what brought me here to Bali. So, we like I said, you know, life is full of ups and downs. You have good things and bad things. Many years ago, I met a beautiful woman, asked her to marry me, and she became my wife. And we always like to have a good time. We always like to celebrate life. But over time, I noticed and recognized that she had a problem with alcoholism. And you stick with a commitment like marriage, right? Because you want it to work and you want the life that we are all promised growing up. But unfortunately, more and more as life went on, the alcoholism really impacted the relationship. It impacted our family. And it was absolutely horrific, Robert. So I can say now, and I'm so glad that we're talking about it, because in some ways it's cathartic. But one of the big forces that brought me to this beautiful island, and I can say it's a gift to be here, but it was a very traumatic experience. I was actually engaged to be married, so I had divorced from my wife because it was just, the relationship was untenable. Found love again. Asked this beautiful woman to be my bride. She said yes, but then something switched in my ex-wife, and she actually got very hostile. She actually went on a campaign of middle-of-the-night calls, threats to my now ex-fiance, and it's through these experiences, right, that you look back now and man, they were so painful going through. I mean, going through that experience and dealing with an alcoholic ex-wife and the impact that it has on your children, and then the impact that it has in your life, no matter what you try and do, right? No matter how hard you try and make things work. It's that kind of experience that actually brought me here to Bali. So I can look back on it now and I can say, oh my God, that was literally the worst thing that has ever happened to me. But I can also look at this beautiful surrounding. I can look at beautiful people like Brother Bonnick here, who I now consider a great friend. And I am so grateful for meeting you. I give thanks every day for being on this planet. We all have ceremonies that we have or practices that we have every day, right? Some of us work out, some of us walk on the beach. I do all of the above. I do cold plunge pool and yoga as well, and Wim Hof method breathing. But it's through these ceremonies and these practices that we actually, it becomes an offering and it becomes a form of gratitude. And so if there's one thing that I can recommend everybody in the audience and those watching as well, is to give thanks for this life every day. Every day. It's such a gift.
Ooh, you know, here's the thing. So many times, right, people, like even last week, I remember one guy came up afterwards and said, mate, that was really good. You must have spent so much time, you know, like in like the pre-chat or the pre-brief. I'm like, we spent 2 minutes, right? Because we don't prep these interviews at all, right? It's all in flow. And I'm learning things at the same time as you are. And that's the whole point. But it always takes two.
Didn't see the alcoholic ex-wife coming out of me.
No.
Did you?
You know, like, here's the thing, right? So the whole point about being here is that if you can, as best you can, keep it open, unity and diversity, people inspire people, runs through every episode. But the key is to remain open. So I just want to acknowledge you, my brother, for having the courage and to talk about it, right? 'Cause we never discussed this. think it's the first time we've discussed it, actually, right? So just to give you an insight into how this operates. So what came up, the next question was, I can see you're a passionate guy. That I felt, right? But why the environment? So why did you do that?
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful question. Thank you. So a couple of things. I have always loved the environment. I mean, my earliest memories, I grew up at a farm in Canada as a small child, like born on a farm, and then didn't move to the big city of Toronto until later on in life. But even as a young boy, and I have such beautiful memories of being 4 years old, escaping from my, what do you call it? Those things where they try and keep the children in, like the pen or whatever.
The pen, the playpen.
So escaping from the pen when mom wasn't looking, running down to the stream and going and lifting up rocks and looking for crayfish and catching frogs. And I felt such a strong connection to the environment, even at that age. And then later on, I mean, in my teenage years, I spent most of my teenage years in the ocean, sailing, snorkeling, swimming, and again, always interested in the environment and creatures, and exploring the ocean has always been a part of me. And so that really is where the background came from the environment. But sorry, I'm going to add on to that if I can.
Keep going, brother.
Yeah, so one of the inspiration for setting up the Regenerative Ecosystem Transformation Track Group here on Bali, and a big inspiration for starting the company that I've founded, Abundant Impact Ventures, founded here in Indonesia, was this experience I had in Ahmed. I was one of the first people allowed back onto the island from foreign lands. And so when I went to...
Post-COVID.
Yeah, post-COVID. Thank you. And so, the island has just opened up. And for those of you who don't live here, it's important to mention that Bali was on a trajectory of high growth, receiving about 6 million foreign direct tourist arrivals at the peak in 2018, 2019. And then COVID hit, and the foreign direct tourist arrival inflow just went off a cliff, and the island all but shut down. In Indonesia, it's a beautiful country. I call it my home. It's also a developing country. There's no safety net here, and so when COVID hit and the people stopped coming, there was nothing. Like, how did people survive? Right, 80% of the tourism of Bali is the 80% of the GDP of Bali is generated by tourism. And so what do these people do to survive, right? And fortunately, there's a tribe mentality and the village mentality, and people took each other in, and then certain people stepped in, and they, like Janur, our friend Janur from Plastic Exchange, he actually came up with a method of exchanging plastic for kilograms of rice, which was a beautiful initiative, but I'm on a major sidebar here. I'll bring it back. So I arrive in Bali in this condition, right? The stress of the people are almost palpable. You can feel it. And I was in Ahmed, and I found myself in Jamaluk Bay. Beautiful coral gardens there. I mean, we have such rich biodiversity in our oceans. Some of the most amazing coral gardens are just a short trip away on Bali, and they're world-renowned. And I was swimming with some friends, and we were having the time of our lives, and I see these fish, and I see these beautiful coral, and I'm so overcome because, like, I'm that kid. I'm like reliving my youth. I'm that kid that was, exploring undersea life as a child, and now I'm in Bali, beautiful ecosystem, and I remember it so saliently. So I've got this like peak high of swimming in biodiversity, and then I look over my right-hand shoulder, and I see this wall of trash. And I thought to myself, like Robert, I'm the guy that when I was vacationing in the Caribbean, if I saw one cup on the beach, I would pick up that cup and march it over to the recycling bin and put it in. I was like that crazy anal retentive guy. And Indonesia, we have a different sort of waste management problem here. And the first thing I thought to myself was, my God, what's going to happen to the people whose livelihoods depend on the ocean? If you go to Ahmed, there's 100, 150 dive shops all around Ahmed. People's livelihoods depend on divers continuing to go there. And if the plastic continues to flow onto the reefs, then it's obviously bad for the environment, but what's going to happen to the people? So I started thinking, and really that became the start of Abundant Impact Ventures, because I believe firmly that our financial decisions can change the planet, right? And so I founded Abundant Impact Ventures with the thesis that we can stimulate investment in companies that are regenerative and restorative and can actually heal the planet. And we can create incentives for investors to put money into these companies and realize their capital back plus a premium, right? Realize an ROI. And so that is really how the idea of Abundant Impact Ventures came to bear. Again, came from this painful experience, right, of seeing garbage flowing in this reef environment and thinking, what can we do about it? What is the opportunity here?
You know, there are two things which come up. So one is the anal retentiveness, but we'll get back to that because we're following a line here. All right, so what are then, I remember one thing which I thought was really interesting was, because most people, including myself, thought that if you have a problem in front of you, by throwing money at it, you can probably solve most of it, or all of it. Now, something you said the other day, I think in the group, was that, you know, the challenge here isn't a lack of money. It's a lack of something else. So before you answer that, maybe give us a quick frame of how you see Bali from this regenerative ecosystem point of view, and then slide into that answer that you gave about actually it's not necessarily the money that's needed, it's something else.
Well, the money is definitely needed, and let me also say that Abundant Impact Ventures is a for-profit company, and that is not taking away anything from the nonprofits, because there are beautiful nonprofit organizations that are doing brilliant work here on Bali. Sungai Watch is probably one of the most favorite and famous ones, internationally renowned for cleaning the rivers and stopping the flow of plastic from rivers through waste barriers. But really, the reason why I chose Abundant Impact Ventures and a for-profit business to make an impact on the environment is that money only gets you so far, and it's about aligning the incentives to realize long-term change, right? The thing about not-for-profits, and again, I have nothing against not-for-profits. I think that there's brilliant not-for-profits out there. But you talk to the average, I encourage you to actually talk to a not-for-profit co-founder or managing director, and they will tell you the same thing. The philanthropic base that supports them typically lasts about 5 years, and then they go on to the next thing that is bothering them, where they want to apply their time and energy and money, right? And that's just the reality, right? The ultra high net worth person or the philanthropic foundation, has multiple flare ups around the world and cause for refocusing. But if you can find a way to align the incentives and stimulate investment in an organization that is regenerative for the economy or for the ecology, then that to me is the secret sauce. And there are millions and millions of organizations that are out here doing this. The second thing I'm going to ask, I think it's the second thing I definitely want to get out there while we're talking about this, is the importance to maintain an abundance mindset. Quick story about this. So I got asked to give a talk about impact investing at a club that is known for being very favorable to environmental concerns. I'm not going to name the club because I don't want to.
You don't need to. We all know what it is.
I don't want to be that guy and call them out. And I don't. What happened next wasn't really their fault. But I got invited to this beautiful event, and we're sitting around this table, and we're eating delicious dinner, and I'm talking about the I'm saying I've got a boutique investment banking advisory, and we're going to be stimulating investment in these companies that are going to be funneling capital to the environment. And there were about 3 people in a row that one at a time that stood up and took issue with what I was doing. They said, "Who are you to be doing this? And don't you know that we have a major problem with an orphanage on Bali, and this orphanage needs money?" And then the second one was, "And do you know that there's another thing with another problem over here?" And then the third one came at me with, "Oh, and there's battered mothers." And look, guys, pardon me, all of these issues are so important. And I encourage every one of you to support every one of these initiatives if you can. But the reality is that there is a world that we live in where currently $2 trillion are currently flowing into something called ESG. And it's because the world is waking up right now from a slumber. And we're realizing that something needs to change. And we're realizing that we can harness the rails of free market capitalism and deliver positive good to this world. And so, there's been some blowback on ESG, right? And ESG investing, and some people are, and I personally think that it's coming from the petrochemical industry, and there's some right-wing guys that are kind of fanning the flames on this. But it's not stopping. Guess what? And you know who's driving it? It's the younger generation, younger than me. I've got some white hair. The younger generation, those coming after me, coming after us, that are driving it forward. It's Generation Y. It's Generation Z. If you take those two cohorts are representative of about 50% of the population of the planet. And those two cohorts are standing up and saying, "What's in my investment account? And what is this money being used for?" And there better not be a fossil fuels company in there. And there better not be a tobacco company in there. And those cohorts are also waking up and saying, "I'm going to go on vacation, but the place that I stay at, it better have a recycling policy, and it better have a waste management policy. And guess what? If you don't, you are going to be defunded as a business." So, look, I'm not an activist. I don't operate from a place of anger and hatred. I actually, as best I can, it comes from here. And so if you can connect with this place, sorry, I don't know why I'm getting so emotional.
Let it come.
But if you can connect from this space, so much can happen.
Thank you, my brother. It's sometimes you just got to breathe it in. I was doing an interview the other day, and the same thing happened to me. And I'm the guy doing the interview, and I was like, it just hit me. I was like, oh. In my head, there was a thought of like, how's this going to look on camera? But then quickly it was replaced by, just let it come.
Yeah.
Just let it come. Because, I'm a firm believer in that, these things don't come from you, they come through you.
Exactly.
And when you allow it to come through you, that's where the power actually truly is. Not from, but through.
What you just saw was the entire universe coming through me into the camera and showing you the reality of where this comes from.
That's right.
and it's a sacred space.
You know, one thing we spoke about in that 2 minutes we had before was, you know, some of the realities as well of running a really large group on WhatsApp. And, you know, how do you deal with, you know, I've run groups before as well, large ones, and it's like, how do you deal with, you know, those, or that aspect, which is always a minority of the group that has a loud voice, which doesn't represent the majority. It's still the minority, but they shout the loudest. And that can then mar and lead and direct other people along that line, which is kind of not what you want to do. So there's probably people here watching who is in the group, and they would have seen some of these episodes carry on, as everyone who's running a large group would see. So just hear it from your mouth, you know, Alex, like, how do you deal with these types of people in this type of group, and what advice can you give to anyone?
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, if you run a chat group or you manage a community, you have a thankless job. And we have a chat group here on Bali. It's called Regenerative Ecosystem Transformation. Recently diversified into a bunch of different subgroups so that people could take their area of subject matter expertise or an area that they feel most passionate about and really exchange with other like-minded people there. On the group, we have a policy. We have a way of being. We have a flow, and it's in our terms of reference, in our community standards. We focus on solutions, and it's an important practice, especially in this day and age, because you can go to X, you can go to Instagram, you can go to Facebook, you can go to Reddit, and you can take part in the shouting contest. And you can raise your fist in the air online, and you can wave it, and you can shout angry things at people, and you can say, I'm mad as hell, I'm not going to take it for it anymore, and all the rest of it. And that could be good for you. The space that we consciously create in regenerative ecosystem transformation is a space of solutions. Because guess what? It's hard work. And inviting a conversation about solutions is hard work because it requires the brain to think. The social media platforms are actually quite dangerous things. And we know from Cambridge Analytica and other episodes that they can actually be weaponized. And I spent 2 decades in management consulting, advising large financial institutions mostly on how to monetize an investment in technology. I'm I understand the platforms very, very well. I've gone to conferences. I've heard the policy chairwoman of Facebook stand up at the Deal Book conference. I'll never forget this. I think it was in 2018 or 2017. And she said, Facebook is not the arbiter of the truth. Think about that, right? So there's no one arbitrating the truth there.
No gatekeeper.
Right, no gatekeeper. So it's a hard job because the platforms have essentially programmed all of us based on a dopamine hit called a like or called a send. And these platforms are basically feeding you information on the basis of what you like or who you interact with, right? And so you can very quickly receive tin hat theories. And I'm just going to use that expression. I'm not pointing my finger at any direction. And so free market capitalism, science-based technology, and the rule of law are the 3 pillars that society and its evolution have stood firmly on. And so maintaining those pillars in a chat group where sometimes people have alternative views, and we maintain space for alternative views. If you have an alternative view on something, bring it up. Let's talk about it. If you have something that you think we should be concerned with, let's talk about it. What we don't tolerate is if someone tells you, "Hey, let's take this conversation offline. Let's have a separate debate. Let's maybe convene a meeting or something, something constructive." Right? What we don't tolerate is people grandstanding or attacking me personally. Look, attacking the community monitor or community moderator, worst idea in the world. Okay, worst idea. Gets you kicked out of the community as quickly as possible. Right? I'm just going to say it. It's the way it is. I don't get paid for this work. You come at me, you want to attack me, I'm going to invite you to have a conversation online. If you don't take that invitation and choose to make the chat group that many people have contributed to, tireless hours, and try and tear it down by taking over the airwaves for a period of time to vent your frustration, it's just not cool, right? So we think there's more constructive ways to do these things.
Yeah, and look, so I mean, one of the things, because we're dealing with how it really is here, right? This is the real truth, not the other truth. This is the real truth. So ultimately, and I've seen this, right? It is about you open yourself up. If someone has a viewpoint that you don't share, you go one-on-one with him, and he'll entertain it, and you have that chat. But then when you bring that into a group of 450, 500 people, like it's not the place to continue that conversation. And that's basically what you're saying, right? Which I think is very fair. And just to round this one out, I love the fact that you're doing your very best to say to people, hey, there's problems everywhere, right? And we can all recite or bring a problem. And it is important to understand what the problems are. There's one guy I'm talking to today, he's saying, own the problem, you own the solution. And I respect that. And I that's really cool, right? But at the same time, there comes a time where you have to start thinking, all right, here's the problem, what is the solution? And then that, as you mentioned, it does engage a different part of the mind. It takes a little bit longer, right, to get your head across. But when you start thinking like that, I think in life, in whichever area of life you are, you become that solution-minded person. And that's what's kind of underneath it all, which I really do admire. But look, while we're on challenges...
Can I just add a couple of things that I just thought about?
Yeah.
I think it's important to get out.
Yeah, go for it.
The other problem I have with the shaking fist is that it's very exclusive, right? You exclude parts of the equation that could actually be quite additive and constructive. So let me give you a couple of examples. Screw the government! We're going to take the government down. They're the reason why we have all these problems, okay? No. Guys. The government is actually keeping us safe, right? There are armies and there are science-backed organizations in government that are doing their best job, okay? Screw industry, it's capitalism, we gotta break down capitalism, we gotta tear it down and restart again. Okay. So, you wanna take down capitalism, where do you start, right? What's the alternative? What's your solution, right? So again, I go back to the anger and the frustration is acknowledged. I hear it. I understand it. But nature abhors a vacuum. If you take down the government or if you take down capitalism, then what's going to replace it? Right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. So now what we're going to do very soon, we have a third microphone here. So if you have a question, feel free to raise the hand and that microphone will come to you and ask the question. Keep in mind that most mics are like this. But the problem is when it's like this, we can't hear you, right? So these are very directional mics. So bring them a bit closer to your mouth. Don't eat them. They do taste good. We put a bit of strawberry flavoring on them. But don't eat them, but bring it closer to your mouth. Point it at your mouth and we can hear your question. So, okay, so we've been through, a little bit about the background of you, some moments, that have kind of created who you've become, realizing, that you're that kind of person that some way, somehow in your life kind of realized that, hey, traumas really can be used as springboards to something better. You've also had a massive experience in the financial services industry, seeing, kind of peeling the layer of the Web 2, right? That's Facebook and all these other big platforms, to seeing kind of how they are using AI and algorithmic mechanisms to kind of steer us in a certain direction that leads into who we are conditioned as people, which is, generally speaking, negative news travels a lot faster, quicker than positive news, for example. So we've been through, there you go. So we've been through the fact that, here we've spoken about some of the idiosyncrasies of dealing with large groups on a platform like WhatsApp, the difficulties, the challenges, and how you deal with them, right? So people are clear about what that is, right? So one thing which I'd like to touch upon, being that it's a really important group that you've started, right? And we know the reasons why you started it. So for those people maybe not in Bali, maybe looking from overseas, right, are kind of wondering, okay, so I've heard about things in Bali. I've heard maybe about the trash. I've heard maybe about the oceans. Maybe I've heard about this. I've heard about that. Now, the answer to this question could go on for an hour. But what I want to do is to try and bring it down to a few minutes. So if I were to ask you, helicopter view, if possible, what is the current state of this regenerative ecosystemic model in Bali? What would you say? And you can feel free to break it down to different areas as well.
I think that there is a tremendous amount of potential here. And there are investors, and when I say investors, I'm actually talking about large global foundation-backed or high net worth individual-backed funds that are looking in earnest at setting up beachheads here. Yeah. Okay? So I can't name names, and I'm not going to name names, and I definitely don't want to say things too soon because no one likes being that guy, and I also don't want to jinx it. But we've had some incredible discussions. Let me just say this. So could I just flow this way for a second? We've had some beautiful, beautiful conversations with some incredibly powerful and well-financed organizations that are going, Alex, thank you. We never actually even considered Indonesia, but the way you frame it about how it is, the fourth largest economy by 2030 and one of the safest places to be given the current geopolitical environment. And, the amount of upside for protecting the environment around Indonesia. And I had no idea that there was so much waste management, issues and challenges that could eventually wash up on our shores, right? These kinds of conversations, I find them so amazing, Robert. I'm so glad that we're doing this. So on the investor side, I see a very promising, robust community forming here, right? Now, guys, I'm going to keep myself honest as well. It's also early days, right? You measure yourself in this line of work by the size and the volume of the checks cashed, right? So there's interest coming, but there have been large size checks cashed here, gone into large investments have been made in impact startups here in Indonesia. Let's get that clear. But the work that we're doing here on Bali focused exclusively on regenerative ecosystem transformation. It's early days. Just before this meeting that we're having now, this conversation, this podcast that we're having, we had a beautiful discussion with a global NGO. Well, I will name the name. It's Oceans 2050, run by Fritz Neumeyer, who is married to Alexandra Cousteau. Beautiful couple, very powerful NGO. Their chief scientist is Carlos Duarte, who's the #1 marine biology scientist in the world. Okay? And so I've got Fritz on a call, and we're just having a casual meetup. with some other people who are interested in seaweed farming, because seaweed farming happens to be one of the most regenerative and restorative practices for the ocean, and it's cleansing and cleaning the ocean, and we're looking at it through two lenses. We're looking at it through consumer products. We're looking at bioplastics. We're looking at seafood, at the seafood industry as well. So we're having these experiences, and it's only because of one thing, and anybody can do it. You know what it is? We're creating space to have dialogue on solutions. Oh my God, right? So just by taking that initiative, right, you invite the conversation of the NGO that's based in Germany with a seaweed hair care company that's based in Belize, with some seaweed farming group that is based on Nusa Lembongan, and those conversations start, right? But it's only because you try, and it's only because we maintain that space, that sacred space for solutioning, right? It's so important, and so we're doing this across all verticals. We're looking at the clean energy transition. I went to ASEAN BAC, saw Pak Lahut talk to a whole room of CEOs about the clean energy transition and how this is Indonesia's game. And I feel so grateful. I feel so honored that I get to be a part of this ecosystem in Indonesia here. Sorry, I'm on a bit of a rant, but I'll stop there.
You know what? The rant is good. So, like, full disclosure, right? So, I said to Alex before we started in this two-minute conversation, right? Because, I was saying to him, right, that I felt, again, not everyone can like you, but people can respect you, right? So part of what I wanted to show you tonight, the ones here and the ones in the camera, is a little bit about his background of where he comes from. Because I've got this thing which is not mine, it comes through, not from. When you understand the background to someone, where they're from, who they are, why they think the way that their ideology, their culture they were born into, and so on, then you get a much better idea for who they are as a person and why they behave in the way that they do. I happen to think that he's a great guy, right? And I happen to think that the work he's doing is incredibly important because, again, you need people. Look, we're across about 10 different industries. SpeakuP Monday, this is 394. We interviewed, from the co-founder of, one of the biggest decacorns in Indonesia to a company that's much smaller, from sustainability through to so many different industries, right? To mental health, right? So we go very, very deep, and that's what I've become. Robert Ian Bonnick and Associates is about that. It's a growth strategist in Indonesia, connecting people and companies with the resources, people, whether it's foreign investment, government, private enterprise, to make great projects happen. So with all of this, what I found, and this is maybe the last one before we go to the audience, is that part of the beauty about what I found here in Indonesia, having this incredible opportunity to meet, converse, get to know, get to spend time with, people who are deep within the Balinese culture, kings and so on, people which are in government, quite pretty high, people who are in business, and we're talking Indonesians and foreigners. That's the almost 400 interviews that we've had. So one of the most powerful philosophies that I've learnt here in Bali is obviously Tri Hita Karana, which, if you don't know what that is, I'll quickly explain it. Imagine a triangle. Imagine the way to happiness or the way to prosperity. The way I'll explain it will be through business, because then the Western mind grabs it and captures it better. So imagine that you're about to start a business, an initiative, a project. Then use this as a guiding system, right? So imagine, how does my business project initiative impact, top of the triangle, human to God, culture, customs, traditions, religion. That's the first one. As I slide over here, how does my business initiative and so on, how does it impact human to environment, right? So that's, sustainability, regenerative, sustainable policies and practices and so on. And then finally over here, human-to-human prosperity. How does it make money? I'll just be Western about it, right? How does it create prosperity for the local community? So when you add these three things together, you create a conscious business, a conscious ecosystem, a conscious person. And this is a way that creates this quadruple win outcome. I win, you win, they win, we win. So this Tri Hita Karana, then I get on to Bonnick. There's so many, right? There are 500 cultures here and 200 languages, right? Just to get you started, over 17,000 plus islands, right? So this is some of the cultural soup that we are immersed in, enmeshed within, and underpins so much of what we have, what we think about, dream about, and become, what comes through us. So the question for you then is that being here in Bali, whatever comes up first, like what is Bali's, or what has been Bali's most impactful effect on you as a person?
Yeah, beautiful. So just to recap, Tri Hita Karana is the three paths to prosperity. And in order to maintain the three paths to prosperity, you have to have harmony. Harmony with yourself or God, harmony with the environment, or harmony person to person with each other, right? Tri Hita Karana, three paths to prosperity. And I consider it ancient technology. And I've actually woven the narrative of Tri Hita Karana. It was a beautiful Balinese rice farmer who pulled me aside out of love and just said, yeah, I want to tell you about Tri Hita Karana in my country, because we started talking about Bali and history and whatnot. But I received this sacred knowledge in a rice field. And so when I think about Tri Hita Karana, I think about how important it is as a gift and a framework for explaining what is right and what is going well and where might be opportunities for improvement. And I think the best example I can think of now, right here, right now on Bali, is I think about how on Bali, right now, guys, every single landfill is on fire. Okay? Because every single landfill is on fire, the landfills are closed. Because the landfills are closed, where is the trash going? There is trash piling up on rice fields. There is trash being deployed into rivers and over bridges. This is a well-known fact. It's reported in the Bali Sun. And so when I think about Tri Hita Karana, and I pray to God that there are powerful, impactful people in Balinese government watching this right now, this is my plea. What does this mean? Person to person, we're definitely disrupting the tourists who came here to enjoy beautiful clean air and a beautiful clean beach and beautiful way of life, right? That's definitely disrupted. Person to environment, well, we're definitely messing with the environment, not only with uncontrollable landfill fires, but also heaps of trash piling up in rice fields and in rivers. And then person to self, this is the most important one. What does it say about ourself or our relationship with God if we allow this to continue? I hold hope that we can turn this around. At Abundant Impact Ventures, one of the first ventures that I worked on, we support founders. 80% of the work that we do is supporting founders. 20% of the work is actually on companies that we co-found. And one of the projects I've been working on that I'm a founder of is a waste management system. And if you take the waste stream, right, we have 822,000 tons of municipal solid waste flowing a year into landfills, some of it into landfills, a lot of it ends up in the rivers. Right now, Bali just generates 822,000 tons of municipal solid waste. Where is he going with this? If we were just to sort these waste streams, we could then monetize each stream. What I mean by monetize is make money. What I mean by making money is that those bags of garbage that are on fire in a landfill or being thrown into rice fields is actually money going up in smoke. And there is technology today that exists. We don't need to do some, like the smart people with propellers have already done it all and figured it all out. We can convert food waste to black soldier fly larvae and feed the myriad of shrimp farms and fish farms across this great nation. We could take agricultural waste, which is food and agricultural waste are between 50 to 80% of what's in that landfill. They have no business being in a landfill, right? And it's actually what's causing the landfill to be on fire. But turning the food waste into something useful, turning the agricultural waste into something useful like fuel for the power generation units that actually power the grid here. PLN, gratefully in their wisdom, is actually starting to entertain contracts with biomass suppliers, and that's some of the. We have a company that's JGF that is actually working on this right now. Plastic. The biggest lie in the world, and I'm sorry I'm ranting a little bit, but
rant away.
But the biggest lie we've been told as consumers is that recycling is the answer. And the reality is recycling is only about 9% of the answer. Only about 9% of plastic globally is being recycled. And the rest is ending up in landfills, or if you're on Bali, it's being burned. And those people that are burning it have, in many cases, they're exposing themselves to fumes that are so toxic they're actually causing themselves cancer and reducing their life expectancy. Yeah. In fact, I would argue that the people who are within a 2 to 10 kilometer radius of Suwing, which is currently on fire, are at risk, are at serious health risk. You can go to an app. You can look it up. It's called air quality. I think AQI quality, air quality index. Yeah. Just this morning, the air quality in Canggu Beach was rivaling Jakarta. Okay, and Jakarta a few weeks ago had the highest polluting air quality in the world. Okay. So again, people in power in government at Bali, I plead to you, let's protect our citizens. Let's protect the 80% GDP generating tourism industry that is here. And let's maybe have a conversation and look at how we can convert this waste to cash. The technology exists today. We can do it today. I have investors that are looking at the business case, but we want to bring government with you. We want to partner with us, and realize the change together.
Brother man. So here we go. Have questions in about 30 seconds to a minute. One thing I want to quickly pick up upon, two things. So one, thank you. Remember, Talihi Te Karana can be interpreted many different ways. Thanks for the other interpretation. The other one is the past 2 weeks here on Speak Up Monday, deliberately, we've focused on, anyone here know Rumi, the quote, Rumi the poet? Raise your hand. Yeah, Rumi, a few there. Cool. Rumi is this ancient poet, Persian from memory. So the quote is not identical to what I'm about to say, but pretty close. When I thought I was clever, I wanted to change the world. Now that I am wise, I only want to change myself. One more. When I was clever, I wanted to change the world. Now that I am wise, I only want to change myself. So here's the thing. The reason why the past 2 weeks have been about that, one was about the deeper aspect of breath work, and one was about the deeper aspect of hypnotherapy. Now, there are many different modalities, but the point is the same point, which is, let me go to the extreme. If I'm a person who has love in my heart, nothing but, then the inside matches the outside. We attract what we are. Right? If I'm a person that has war within my soul, within my heart, within my DNA, the chances are that's what I'm going to attract. So part of this incredible work that the guys are doing, I look at it from the point of view of human beings individually and also human beings as leaders of nations. Imagine when you think about leaders of nations which are perhaps carrying around some kind of trauma from when they were younger. All they can do is subconsciously carry it out without even realizing it, because it's beneath the surface level of the conscious awareness. So when we talk about, the power of self, this is kind of what we've been focusing on the last couple of weeks. There's 2 modalities, of which there are many, but these are 2 which are very powerful. Because again, at the final time, when I was clever, I wanted to change the world. Now that I am wise, I only want to change myself, right? All right, beautiful. So we're going to go to questions now. So if you have a question, Ichi has one, that's good. Just remember to raise your hand. If you're in 3 places, one, you might think, I can't possibly ask that question because it might be a bit too silly. Nothing is too silly. It's all worthwhile. Number 2 is, I think he's answered that question already, maybe. Ask your question. And the third one is probably one of the other 2. So we start with Ichi. Over to you, mate.
Hi, Alex. Rob. Thank you very much for sharing, very truthful and your journey as well as what you're trying to do, and also the current very sad situation in Bali. This is a reality, and we have to hear it, and we have to take it. And my name's Ichi. I'm from Tropical Nomad.
He runs the joint. He runs the joint.
Yes, this joint. Yeah. And we've been trying to organize social impact, related events, trying to support all the different, actions, the groups, the community organizers, and we're trying to build awareness. We're trying to also contribute, but I think it's obviously you haven't done enough. Obviously, we represent the digital nomad communities, right? The visitors who are arriving to Bali because they know that Bali is an amazing place, and it is also one of the centers of digital nomad movement and the remote working movement, and also a future of work. There's a lot of things that the Bali is a forefront in the world, and they're trying to do things. And also happens tonight that there are very well-known community leaders in the startup scene based out of Bali, and also from the digital nomad movement. This is a worldwide movement, and with the venue as a cruise ship, and so
Johanna's Nomad Cruise.
Yes, and also we have Lavinia as well.
Lavinia as well.
From Live It, yes. And many of us here obviously have our own network, and we have our circle of influence. But so I would like to ask for your honest opinion and maybe suggestion as we try to lead these kind of communities and try to make an impact and difference. And from what you have seen since you arrived in Bali until now, and what we have tried to do and try to support, what are the things that you think that worked, and what are the things that we are missing the mark? give us your.
So
your
I'm going to play back the question so I make sure I answer it correctly. What are the things that are working and not working in social impact, investment stimulation, or space convening, or
perhaps as community organizers or
Community
leaders like
organizers.
such as myself, what are the things that we should be doing better? Maybe.
I would love to do a co-branded social impact incubation program here, right? I think that that would make a lot of sense. Now, you would need to attract the capital that is required to go along with it, right? And because you need the capital in order to make it sustainable, in order to have some continuity, right? And so, Ishii, I mean, I'd love to talk to you about how to do that together, right? With some backer. I'm also aware of a group that might be coming to Bali to do something similar to that. And let's not forget that there are a number of incredible incubation initiatives, some foundation-backed, that are already here, that really just might need a space here on Bali, because I'm aware of some like on Java, for example. Like Jakarta's a massive hub of players there, and they tend to do these sort of like pop-up events here on Bali from time to time. But to do something that is sustainable, that gets traction, that is a long-term viable concern, I think you need to develop that brand and that related programming, because then that gives you the notoriety, and then that becomes the attraction. And then if you're also backing it up with seed funding or pre-seed funding, then that's going to be the magnet, right? And so building that kind of engine, I think, is critical as the next phase. And let me just say, what you have done in this community already is epic, right? So for you to have like the integrity and the lack of ego, quite frankly, to say, what should we be doing better? What should we be doing stronger? I commend you for that, and the work that you've done in the past, and what I see available to you going forward. And if there's some way that we can work together, either directly or through my network, I'd love to get that going.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
And you've got a recording, so you've got the commitment.
We just saw a contract signed. All right. So any other questions? Yeah, I'm going to swing over there while you're thinking about it. Yes, Lavinia. Okay. So it's okay. So while we get to you, when I first got here, Alex, so there was Bali NGO and Associates, Rodney and Kylie, Crisis Kitchen. I remember, and Jeroen, right? And it was like this. The biggest challenge that they found, duplication, collaboration. Yeah. So what it was that well-meaning foreigners like me, even though my wife is Indonesian and kids and all the rest of that, but I am a foreigner or expat, came in with this idea of like, right, I'm going to, remember when I was clever? Right, you got the quote. When I was clever, I wanted to change the world. It's like, okay, we can do all of this, right? And we can sort it out and blah, 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 right? So the biggest challenge that they found was that people coming over saw maybe a few days, saw what they believed the challenge to be, have the tech they believed to solve it, but duplication, not collaboration. So what they did is that instead of looking at what was there already and look to see how can I add value to that, depending on what stage they were at, it was like, right, I'm going to come in and do my thing. So now what you have is a duplication of resources. So it is by no means efficient, and usually it ends in about a year or two, they're gone, right?
Yeah.
So when I say to you duplication or collaboration, what comes up for you about the Bali ecosystem?
It's hard. I mean, it's hard. I did a pitch competition at that project site up the beach, and it was a beautiful venue, well attended. I invited like 6 or 7 NGOs to collaborate with us to set up a booth for free. I think we had one, right? Now, maybe it wasn't the right audience or something, but it's just like, you can. It's like inviting guests to dinner, right? You can set the table, you can cook the meal, but the people do have to come up and show up and eat at the end of the day, right? You got to show up. I'd love to hear Lavinia's question.
Over to you, Lavinia.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you for hosting us, Tropical Nomad and Ichi. It's so good to see you. And thank you, Robert and Alex, for the beautiful conversation. I do think that this cause is a lot bigger than any of us can take on alone. And I'm putting it on camera as well. We'd be very happy to participate to an impact investment co-branded sort of network initiative and so on. We'd love to do that, and we have things that we can come in with and complement each other and so on. I was wondering, Alex, what your thoughts are on the concept of creative capitalism. It feels to me like, in a way, what you're talking, because creative capitalism is all about fast-tracking or prioritizing in terms of funding and incentives those businesses or social businesses that are prioritizing equity, right? And it feels to me like what you're talking about is that in the environmental sphere, right? If that resonates or it's something very different from what you're thinking, I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, so we're focused on pre-seed, seed, and Series A, and we are utilizing investor funds, right? So we're utilizing investor funds to focus on companies that are regenerative in nature, right? So we have, to give you an example, we have one company that we're now doing a seed round for. It's called Carbon Ethics. They do nature-based carbon solutions. So they will develop a project like planting mangroves, for example, that will result in a generation of a carbon credit, and that carbon credit can then be purchased by an emitter, right? Beautiful example. Bimo and Jessica and team are doing an incredible job, and the seed round is live, so...
Seed round live! Sign up here!
Investors, if you're watching, we can talk about valuation off camera.
So, Lavinia, I know you've got more to answer, but while the camera's on you, Guzman, camera on Lavinia. So give us a plug. What is it that you do? Because some people here have no idea what you do. So please just wait till the camera comes onto you. Guzman, yeah, we'll turn it around. So please let us know what it is that you do.
Sure. Thanks so much for offering that opportunity. So I run a company called Live It International. We are a physical and digital hub that is helping startups, entrepreneurs, and remote teams and remote workers grow amazing, disruptive companies that hopefully make a dent in the world in a positive way. It could be just that, wise way of starting with just yourself or something really small or something much bigger. So we've been co-founding and investing in businesses out of Bali, and I think the companies we work with are in about 15, 17 other countries right now for about 10 years now. And we do a lot in the edtech area. We do a lot in the sustainability tech and so forth. So we help companies with a variety of different services. We have a physical innovation hub here in Bali, in Sanur, on the less popular side of the island. It is quiet and beautiful there, though. So, and we hope it's going to stay that way. So we've been having a great time doing that. We have a company in 2 companies in Europe as well. So we've seen Bali go through this transformation. We've been here long enough to see Bali become the hotspot, the digital nomad #1 hotspot in the world, and what comes with that, both good and bad, and the over tourism and everything. So it's been an interesting journey, and we are working with all kinds of different organizations that I'm sure you're familiar with. Like there's some Kotyck, for example, is doing such an amazing job. Even Yaya-sans like Pratisara Bumi Lestari, if you've heard of them, like grassroots sustainability sort of incubation and so on. So we love cooperation, and even in the co-working world, like all of us co-working space operators are friends with each other, and we kind of send clients to each other, and we cooperate, and this is the Bali spirit.
One thing. Thank you very much, by the way. So.
And thank you for coming. I know how busy you are.
Yeah,
I can't believe she's even here.
Well, remember we said it's like a birthday party, the right people show. So here it is, right? About 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, a really bright business partner, former business partner, introduced me to this word that sounded a bit weird, still sounds weird, but it's a pretty cool word. It's called co-opetition. Co-opetition. So what it basically means is those who are seemingly in competition together come together and cooperate. Right? So the idea behind it is, okay, if it's just me, I can go fast, but if I want to really do big things, I go together, right? But that word is the key, right? And what it takes is, ego. What it takes is having a deeper insight back to yourself. Again, like we all have traumas, we all have these things which are running us subconsciously and all the rest of that, but it becomes with this awareness, similar to the journey that you've gone through, Senor Kimono Alex, right? So when I say to you, co-opetition, right? Either of you actually, because we're both here now, what comes up for you? What needs to change in order for that to become a greater philosophy that is adopted by let's say by the mainstream?
I can go first. So I think the #1 thing, and it's a thing that would bode well for any entrepreneur, is to maintain that abundance mindset, right? Because if you deal in the world of scarcity, then you're dealing in the world of fear, right? There's not enough to go around. What am I going to do? And then actually it leads to mistakes, right? And it's funny, when I first came to Bali and it started becoming known that I was getting into this business, one of the other capital allocation teams kind of got their back up a little bit. And I was like, no, dudes, no. You got it all wrong. We actually need about 10,000 more of us, right? Because if there was 10,000 more of us, there would be 10,000 more opportunities. That's the way it works. Right? We'd be filtering the opportunities better. We'd be attracting, all of a sudden, the founders would say, hey, this is a viable career path, right? Capital, like investors, LPs would be going, oh, yeah, they're actually making money by stimulating companies. So we actually need more of it. We don't need less. And so that's an example of co-opetition, I think, in its purest form.
Love it. Lavinia, you look ready.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's
It's okay, it will come. 3 seconds.
all right. I think it's a deep belief that there's enough for everyone, and not only that there's enough for everyone, but that the 10 of us, 15 of us here, if we start this impact investing, network, venture, whatever we want to call it, right? We actually make the pie bigger for everyone. So not only that there's enough, but we can actually make more of it for all of us. And that's been true in pretty much any industry I've worked in, except for the one I started my career in, which was banking, and that was no fun.
The bankers, we need you. We need you, bankers. We need
Former bankers unite.
All right, final question, and then we'll wrap it up. So there's a good mate of all of us, Oki. Sobajo, Oki, if you're watching, good day, mate. It's like this. So he informed me of this book called Regional Advantage, right? And from it, I've probably added a few things to it. But to create a thriving ecosystem, okay, there's 4 things that you need in close proximity, right? In close proximity. One is the availability of capital. One is the availability of talent. One is the availability of projects. The other is the availability of leadership. And then we added a 5th, which was friendly government intervention or friendly government relations, right? So in those 5 areas, right, where do you think, Alex, where do you think that we currently stand in Bali? So it's availability of capital, leadership, projects, talent, friendly government intervention.
I think that there's a tremendous opportunity here in Bali. I think that there is an abundance of all of the things that you mentioned. And what we need are actors to come here, right? The people, the solution-oriented people, the abundance-oriented people, to step forward and actually activate. It's so easy to shake your fist in the air. It's so easy to flip that tweet and you get a little dopamine hit and you think you've actually done something for the environment. But guess what? It's so low, right? You really need to take action. You really need to get involved, get engaged, learn, educate yourself, and we need those people. I think that's the answer to the question.
We will have your question after, but for now, we'll close the live. Everybody, I want to thank Tropical Nomad, my brother Itchy. We do a lot of projects together. Thank you very much indeed. I want to thank you, the audience who have come here, and obviously Tropical, we've got Guzman, we've got Hadis, and Ayi, who's somewhere around over here. Wonderful. Brother Alex, there she is. She's like, someone's calling my name, someone's calling my name. We know it's you, darling. And Brother Alex, man, as I said, inflow with you, my brother. Beautiful. Glad that you're here.
Thanks for doing this.
All right, round of applause, everyone. Alex Kotyck. So we're going to